Oh, man, you're making me do it. All right. Here we go. We got this tweet from White Dudes for Harris. Proud to unveil the very first ad from White Dudes for Harris. We're coming together to support Kamala Harris, focusing directly on talking to white dudes about our role in this election. This is just the beginning. We're showing up, speaking out, and standing for what matters. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to unmute this because
we gotta hear this. Come on.
I didn't want to.
Hey, white dudes. So I think we're all pretty sick of hearing how much we suck. Every time you go online, it's the same story. We're the problem. And yeah, some white dudes are. Trump and all his MAGA buddies are out there making it worse, shouting nonsense in their stupid red hats and acting like they speak for us when they don't. All they've ever done is screw us over. But if you're not on the MAGA train, where do you go? Isn't it just swapping out one crappy option for another? Then it hit me. This isn't about picking teams. It's about who's got a plan that's gonna make life better for me and my family. So I've been doing my own research and decided to check out Kamala Harris and Tim Walsh. And before you jump down my throat, they're actually talking to guys like us. No lectures, no BS. Just real solutions that protect our freedoms and help us take care of the people who matter. And honestly, I think Harris and Walsh are the ones to make that happen. End of the day, you're your own man. It's your call. But if anyone gives you crap about it, tell them it's none of their damn business.
Wow.
Well, so that explains why the Teamsters are backing Donald Trump.
I think whoever wrote that commercial has never met a white man. I just don't think they have.
It's a commercial for men, like written by women. You can already tell. Mm-hmm. And but I don't know. It speaks like they said damn. They said crap. They said
lectures,
BS.
No BS. No nagging GF.
I mean, I feel like if they wanted to make an actual ad, it would be like, hey, vote Kamala. That'd just be it. Like nobody's got time. We don't need to.
Cut to the chase.
Don't waste my time.
Kamala's even married to one of us.
But, it's funny because you said it's written by women. And you ever see that comedy bit where a guy says, so a buddy of mine, he's going through a divorce and things have been rough. And, I guess he's going to get back into dating. So we go golfing. When I come home, my wife says, so how is he? And I go, I don't know. And she was like, what do you mean? Weren't you golfing together? Yeah. Well, is he seeing somebody? He goes, didn't come up. She's like, you don't know anything about your friend? And he's like, we don't talk about it. Like, that bit was funny to everyone because they know guys aren't going and meeting up and talking about these things. Hey, Kamala Harris, she ain't lecturing guys like me. White dudes like you, we should go vote for her. They're going to be like, what are you talking about, dude? Shut up. The game's on.
But again, the writer's room has never met a white man. They don't know them at all. And the white men that they hang out with are completely compliant to their will. I mean, the thing is, Kamala Harris wants white men to vote for her. And I know this because they're now courting Mormons in Arizona. Mormons, overwhelmingly white. And they're trying to say, no, she represents your values better than Donald Trump.
I just want to point out, this ad is paid for by Beige Rainbow Pack.
What?
What is that? Beige Rainbow?
Hold on. They're just making fun of white people.
Seriously.
Yeah. Sounds like to me, it's the ad sounds like it's like in the style of like an anti-drug commercial that they would show you in high school. That's trying to sound really cool and
hello, fellow youths.
Right, exactly. Or I don't know if this was made by women, but it's the kind of ad that some liberal woman will show her boyfriend because she thinks that he'll like it, like that kind of thing. But even in an ad that's supposed to appeal to men, you notice that the first 15 seconds are still dumping on men.
Yeah.
They can't even appeal to men without going, well, yeah, look, some men suck. We all know that. Let's just get that out of the way. Men are terrible, but by the way, and then they get into the whole thing. So they can't even appeal to men without dumping on men.
I don't know if you could make an effective ad for men in general for Kamala because she doesn't offer anything substantive to a man. And let me clarify that because you may be saying, sure, but what do you mean? I mean, if I was going to make an ad that was literally about apolitical dudes who are sitting there, they don't want to be bothered, I'd be like, hey, you guys remember when Donald Trump called Rosie O'Donnell a fat pig? And they're going to laugh. And they're like, that's funny. And it's like, that's all you need to do. The guys are going to be sitting around, they're going to ribbing on each other, they're joking, they're crude, they're crass. Kamala doesn't have anything that's going to make a guy laugh.
But also the problem they run into is that there is no room in the country where any white men are sitting around talking about how they like Kamala Harris. Like men will talk about politics. I talk about politics all the time. But just that would never happen. You would never be hanging out with other guys and like, hey, Kamala Harris, she's really she's
presented a great plan.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Her rhetoric is all about like safety and I'm safe and I'm your mamala. And women will flock to that. Yeah. Men don't respond
I think she's pretty intimidated by men. I think it's interesting that she won't sit down. Number one, that she picked Tim Walsh, who is soy as you can get, as her VP, and then every time she tries to like say she's doing an interview, it's with female interviewers, and they're always mostly allowing her to dodge the
governor is her
question.
appeal to white guys, by the way. She's like, well, this guy
She clearly understands what appeals to white men.
knows how to eat a turkey leg, but also will put tampons in a men's restroom.
But look at that ad the interview thing she did where she was like, do you eat food? And he's like, I have white guy tacos. And she's like, what's that? And he's like, beef. And she's like, what is that? Tuna and mayonnaise? And he's like, beef with cheese? She's like, do you season it? No. Like, is that supposed to be endearing to white guys?
I don't season my tacos because I'm a stupid white guy.
Also, well, that's the whole claim that this is a side thing, but the claim that white people don't season their food. It's like, speak for yourself. I don't know what.
Matt,
There's been
are you
a
familiar
huge
with the
discourse
East
about
India?
Indian food.
Are you familiar with the East India Trading Company?
Yes.
White people massacred hundreds of thousands to season their food.
We're crazy about spices.
Yeah, seriously.
We literally will kill for our spice. That's how much we like them.
Black peppercorn was like the most valuable substance. And now he's like, I put pepper on it. It's like, okay, it's a start. But we all know the funny thing is he was lying because he actually had some award-winning casserole recipe with cayenne and garlic. And,
That's a really good, that's a good point. We fought and died for spices, damn it. And now you're trying to take spices away from us?
Or they want to, but this is part of the lie that they engage in. These woke, anti-racist, all these people very well play this game where, it was only like 7 years ago, a big talking point was that white people have no culture. This was a huge thing they were saying. They're saying, no, white people have no culture. This is culture. And they'd point to, other ethnic groups. And then it's just like, what are you talking about? There's a whole bunch of cultures from people who are white. What is that supposed to mean? And they play this game where they say white doesn't mean the color of your skin. It doesn't mean you're of certain European countries. It means you're the dominant social group, which is to imply that Chinese people are white in China. That's the argument they make. And I'll give you a funny one on this. We had a running gag on this show when Luke Rudkowski was a recurring co-host. Luke Rudkowski has blonde hair and blue eyes. He's Polish. And according to an organization called the Coalition for Communities of Color, Polish people are people of color. So I'm sitting here, part Asian, and I don't count. I am not a person of color. And blonde hair, blue-eyed white dude is a person of color. That's their logic.
I agree with the sentiment that there's no such thing as white culture because it's just so broad and so absurd. Like there's certainly such thing as an American culture, and that's something I participate in. There's something as German culture, Swedish culture, Nordic culture in general. But to just paint Europe and the West with a broad brush and being like, well, you whiteys have your own thing. Sure, when you guys have not nearly as much in common with the average German walking around as you do.
But I think it's needlessly reductive. It's like, there are white people who have certain cultural elements. When you come from Europe, there are certain things that are broadly shared, and there are certain things that are not. And it's just like, you can make the point you made. I think it's a point that, well, you can identify German culture, but I don't see. I don't know why they're so mad about saying, trying to make that a point.
I think it's like, you can't have it both ways. I think that's because they try to have it both ways because they'll say, well, there's no such thing as white culture. And then they'll give an answer much like what you said that, well, yeah, you break it down by where did you come from? And yeah, there's an Irish culture. There's and okay, but then it's the same thing for black because black is not, there's how many different countries could you come from to qualify as black according to our standards?
I agree with this. I was born in Ethiopia. There's Ethiopian cultural identity, and that is separate from, I don't know what the hell black culture is besides a ridiculously degrading and reductive thing to say, but like, oh, well, I guess you're good at dancing and basketball.
Playing the bass.
Yeah, which, I've tried my hand in.
Are you good at basketball?
No, I'm terrible.
Okay.
But the woke, these individuals claim there is black culture. It's hypocritical. It's paradoxical.
Yeah, I could. So if we were going to say, well, okay, we're not talking about black culture, we're not talking about white culture, we're going to be more specific, so that the word culture has more meaning. Well, that's a consistent viewpoint. But when it's kind of inconsistent and we're just like taking a whole swath of people and say, well, they don't have culture at all, that's where it becomes an issue. Although I will say, just to bring it back to the white dudes for Harris, and I made this point before, that the way that they're appealing to white dudes, calling them white dudes, all of it, it's very silly. It's ridiculous. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's laughable. But it is still striking that still the Democrats are making a explicit, deliberate play for the white male vote.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Republicans, on the other hand, they would just never do that. They're not going to ever acknowledge white males as a distinct group or category.
That's weird.
Because they're scared of being called racist, or because they don't think it's worth their time because the votes are already coming in?
I think both. I think it's both, but it's mainly the first thing. I think but they will say, I mean, you'll hear from any Republican, well, here's how we're going to help Black Americans. Here's how we're going to help women. Here's how we're going to help Asians. They'll say all that, and that's fine. But then there's this whole other category. Well, we're not going to specifically talk about how we're going to help those people. And it's just interesting that the Democrats are the only ones doing that right now. Of course, they're doing it in a really, insulting
and
way.
it's not that it wouldn't be smart for Republicans to do it, but the general point is just stop doing it. It's a really reductive way to just view this country and the complementary aspect of the most beneficial aspect of this country.
But the Harris-Walsh campaign is completely bent on identifying to people based on race.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason she's appearing at the Hispanic conference today. She's talking to Black journalists specifically. She's attending Black sorority functions. I mean, she is obviously acknowledging that the Democratic organizers that are behind her see our country through the lens of race exclusively, which is interesting because they're also arguing they're the most unifying party.
Well, she's also mentioning in the debate that, Republicans need to get off of this whole race business.
Meanwhile, I will only talk to you if you're circled up by race.
Yeah.
I don't know about who's going to win. There's predictions. They go crazy. Everybody thinks they know. But I do think that we should heed the warning of the left on this one, and that is that this country is inherently sexist. They say it's racist too, but we'll talk about that in a second. I brought up a while ago that I believe there's a component of the United States population that will not vote for a woman president. It's not just conservatives. Mary says her, but I believe there's Democrat men who are probably in their 60s who are like, I ain't voting for a woman, and they're Democrats, but they just
don't
wouldn't
say
do
it. They don't say it.
Right.
They don't even say it to themselves, but they feel it subconsciously.
I mean, they'll say it in private. They'll say it when no one's around. I tell you, I was sitting at a wing place the other day, and there was a couple of construction worker guys, and the things they were saying, they would never say in a larger public context. But these guys were voting for Trump, the stuff they were saying. They were talking about capital punishment and how to get this country right. And I'm like, I know exactly who they're voting for. But there are a bunch of Democrats who are probably older and don't want to vote for a woman. I brought this up, and these liberals called me sexist for saying it. And I'm like, how am I sexist? I'm saying I agree with you, liberal, that there's a component at some degree in this country that will not vote for her. And if here's what I wonder, if she's up in the polls by a point or two, but she could lose a point or two because there are a lot of men and women who will not vote for a woman because she is a woman. That's the liberal talking point on inherent sexism. How am I wrong?
I mean, well, I don't know that I buy that that's true. I don't think that many people have, especially on the left, have a compunction about voting for a woman. I don't know. I'm
saying that there are older people who are going to be like, I don't want to vote for a woman. And that number is probably significant enough. I'm not saying it's going to be 10%.
Would you vote for a female Trump?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I remember
absolutely.
there was some psychological experiment done around the 2016 election where they scripted a debate between a female Trump character, it wasn't said explicitly, and a male Hillary. And most of the respondents said they would vote for the female.
Yep.
Based on her rhetoric.
It was NYU. There was this theory that Hillary lost because she's a woman and people are sexist. So they said, let's do the debate, same lines, performed perfectly by two actors, but the Trump is a woman and the Hillary is a man. And the end result was that people thought Hillary was a guy. It was a guy with glasses, and it was a woman in a red dress. And they said, that guy is too snooty and condescending. The woman was passionate and wanted to help us.
But a woman would never talk like Trump. That would never happen.
We were talking about that on the drive up here because we were talking about the Australian Office and how they gender swapped Dwight.
It was awful.
Yeah.
They gender swapped Michael. They gender swapped
Really?
Dwight.
Matt
Yeah.
made the astute observation that there, like, a female Dwight doesn't exist.
No.
Like, it doesn't work. And I think that's the same with a female Trump. I just can't picture.
I also think there's no other male Trump. I mean, Trump is really unique in a lot of ways. There will be other people who share his maybe values or ideas or, interests politically, but you couldn't recreate Trump. And I think it's a mistake to try, regardless of gender.
He's a very unique guy, but you can even look at a lot of his personality traits and you can say, oh yeah, I know guys that are kind of like that. But you can't, you can't do that. I don't know any woman who's anything like Trump.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe and we'll see you all there.